Okay? So, that being said, questions? Yes, sir.
If you do, so you're doing this thing in your lab to see if carbon is soft or whatever. If you don't water that stuff, what happens? Like you don't water it right away, you know, more than likely going to die? Or?
No, it actually is great about, it's not like turf sod. Turfgrass sod, yeah, they cut that stuff in the morning, you better be watering it by 3 o'clock or you got a bunch of dead sod. This stuff doesn't need it. You should water it, you need to water it because it does that, you know, because the root soil contact layer takes the air gap out of it, that's what you're doing when you're watering. But it's not necessary. I've actually had, you know, we get a lot of trays, samples we got to turn in for projects and things. And I've literally taken these trays and set them on a table at my office and just let them sit there forever to see if they would die. It takes weeks, months sometimes. I mean, literally, it's hard. Sedum really, thankfully, very hard to kill.
Right.
It's not. You're not going to lose your sedum unless you're really, really drought stressing it. You got nutrition problems, or it's getting overrun by something like clover. Yes, ma'am.
If a weed has a deep root system, I usually use a trowel to try to remove it, but you probably don't want to do that in the green room.
You have to be careful. You have to know how the roof was constructed. That was I guess maybe to finish that thought, that was my point showing the one slide with the foam and then the root barrier. Yeah, some of these roofs have a full foam layer under them. Some of them don't. So you could be, you know, in there trying to dig out, you know, a burdock or something and dig yourself right into the waterproofing membrane. So before you start, you really want to get a set of the construction documents. See how this thing was built. Talk to the guy that built it. See what, you know, if you're you know, your guys are staff maintenance, the UPMC guys. If you can be there, visit the golf site when they're building, see what this guy's doing, see how they're doing it. One of the other things we didn't talk about, the EFM, leak detection. So it's electro vector field mapping. So we can actually, we put a loop wire around a roof, we put water, we put electric charge in it, and a guy walks around with a set of ski poles that has a little voltmeter, and he can find anywhere there's voltage drop across that electrical field. If there's voltage drop, it means that there's a hole in that membrane, which means that that electrical field is going to ground. So anytime we're building a roof, we always, I won't take custody of a roof unless it's been flood tested. It's either have to be flood tested, it's got to have been, you know, leak detected with EBFM, or I'm really, really, really confident in whoever put that roof on. We've been there and inspected it. Because if you get a leak in a green roof, you can have a really miserable summer trying to find it. We had one project where they had used a non-adhered PVC membrane for this roof. It was over top, essentially a mechanical room, and they had a bench that they wrapped the PVC membrane over. And the carpenter, they were putting down the wood slats. The carpenter was supposed to be using 2.5-inch screws. He had some 4s in his pouch. Ran some 4-inch screws through the wood on the bench, went through the blocking, through the dryer, into the membrane. And because the way the bench was built, it was trapping a little, they had this thing built, so it was trapping a little cup of water between each one of these things. It would leak. The leak showed up dripping on a beam 50 feet away inside the building. We spent an entire summer digging this thing up. And it turned out it wasn't even the roof that was leaking, it was a bench that they had wrapped the waterproofing on, didn't terminate it properly. And the carpenter got us with some 4-inch texture. So, if you're ever involved in designing, consulting, being the administrator, get a leak detection system. It's cheap. The cheapest insurance you'll ever get, $3,500. typical cost. Okay. Sir?
What was the name of the green roof fertilizer that you mentioned?
Well, this stuff's coming from Germany. I'm not sure I can tell you what it is. But the company that we buy ours from is Resource Conservation Technology out of Baltimore. You can find them online. But
As far as herbicides, I take care of a green roof, and I've tried the products with vinegar and clove oil in it, and sometimes they're effective and sometimes they're not.
Right.
And if you do it on a real hot day, they are effective, but what do you use? Have you found anything effective?
you know, we try to mechanically dig pool. Sometimes you can. And, you know, unfortunately, we're back to Roundup. You know, vinegar, salt water, extract of unicorn eggs. I mean, that stuff isn't really getting the job done that I've seen. Maybe somebody knows something that I don't know. But sometimes you just got to go to the dark side. Get Monsanto some of your money. Yes, sir.
Yes, I'm from Forest Hills, and we're putting a new borough building together. We have a lot of trees, so we have
Right.
birds.
Right.
Okay. What do you do about birds? Because we're concerned that we may create a sanctuary on top of the building.
That's perfect. That's great. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, no, it's awesome. There's nothing wrong with that, as long as they don't smoke. Right? No, you want the birds, you want the bugs, you want the critters. They're not going to hurt anything. Just don't give them the conditions where they can hurt you. Okay? That's it. I mean, that last slide I showed you with that immature red tail, that was on one of our green roofs. That guy was standing on that controller on a green roof, and he'd been hunting on the roofs.
Yeah, we had a hawk.
Yeah,
We
awesome.
had a hawk.
Cool. Yeah, nothing wrong. Yes, ma'am.
Can you talk a little bit more about the perception you were talking about with wildflowers? What are wildflowers?
Great.
And
Well,
also, like you said, weeding is one of the, sort of like the biggest problems, right?
correct.
Is there something intrinsically wrong with weeds aside from the aesthetic?
All right, so I mean, I showed you the wild roof. That wild roof works the same. It's doing the exact same job as that one with the cedar. Works great. It's just annoying to the guy that's looking out the window who starts, getting hives because he wants to go with weed eater. I will talk about that in this next lecture because I don't know where I'm at.